So I think email marketing is really, really powerful to recapture repeat buyers.
You're listening to Thrive by Design, business, marketing, and lifestyle strategies for your jewelry brand to flourish and thrive. Let's get started.
Welcome to the Thrive by Design podcast, episode number 84. This is Tracy Matthews here, the Chief Visionary Officer over at Flourish and Thrive Academy. And you know me, I'm always thrilled to be here on the podcast. So today I have an important topic, like I usually do. And it's been fun going through all of these episodes that we've created over the past year and a half for the podcast. It's been really fun developing all this content. So as I was going sort of through the library of things, I was like, what do people ask the most and like, where do we have a gap? And, in January, we had a really great free training called the Jewelry Makeover Bootcamp. And it was an awesome bootcamp experience. In a couple of weeks, we're going to be launching a new challenge. So stay tuned. It's going to be super fun, all surrounding marketing. But one of the things that consistently comes up time and time again is, how do I get more traffic to my website? And how do I make more sales with that traffic? So actually, as I'm recording this, I'm in Los Angeles. I'm actually recording in a hotel room. That's the cool thing about having a really great computer and a great microphone, is you can record your podcast anywhere. So I did a really quick turnaround. I was only home in New York City for a couple days, and I was in Puerto Rico with my business mastermind. And one of my mastermind buddies is my friend Ben, and Ben is an e-commerce, and Amazon selling expert. And Ben and I are always chatting about ideas. He's so generous. He likes to share like some of his best strategies, which is awesome for you guys because I get to bring all that to you. So in the upcoming weeks, get excited. I'm going to be sharing some of Ben's resources that he shared with me, with some tools and platforms and people and places that can really help you leverage your time a little bit better and grow your online presence and your e-commerce business as well. So if you're interested in that, stay tuned. Keep listening to the podcast because you're going to really enjoy that. Anyway, Ben and I got to talking and we were sort of diving deep. And I'm like, yeah, one of the questions that people ask all the time is, I work with a really creative audience, and a lot of times they like to focus on the creation piece, but they're really stumped when it comes to doing some of the things like driving traffic to their website, and they try all these things and it doesn't really work. So we were talking a little bit about that. So I'm going to share more about that with you coming up real soon. But, getting traffic to your website is not necessarily rocket science. And it's my firm belief that there is one of the best ways that we forget to think about. So what I'm going to share with you today is the number one best way to get more traffic to your jewelry website, which I think a lot of you probably would be interested in hearing a little bit more about. So why don't we dive right into the meat of the podcast and we can jump right in. But before we do, I would love to share a word from our sponsor. Today's sponsor is Shopify. So if you're in the Flourish and Thrive community, you know that I love Shopify. I am actually transitioning my website over to a Shopify website when I work on a little bit of a website refresh and rebrand in the upcoming months. And I'm really excited about it because I've been wanting to relaunch sort of ready-to-wear bridal collection. So I'm very, very excited about that and excited to have an e-commerce store again because it's really fun. I teach you a lot about how to get traffic and convert that traffic into sales on your website. And I think I've done a really good job even without an e-commerce store. But the thing that I think is really amazing is that when you use a tool like Shopify, you have so much more leverage. And here's what I mean. The reason why I love Shopify so much for building a website is that they're really at the forefront of e-commerce technology. And so they have a lot of applications that you can plug into the back end of your website. Things like upsells, cross-sells, downsells. You can have Pinterest integrations where you can have shoppable pins. You can also have integrations with Facebook ads retargeting and all that sort of stuff. So it's just the possibilities are really endless. There's a lot of different developers working on it. And Shopify, really starts at simple templates that anyone can kind of DIY up to more developed websites where you can have a completely custom website built on their platform. So I just love them. And because of that, I'm always trying to get a good deal for our audience. I've negotiated a really amazing offer from Shopify. So they're offering an extended free trial and 10% off ongoing on your order. So if you're interested in checking more about the Flourish and Thrive deal that we have with Shopify, head on over to flourishthriveacademy.com/Shopify. That's flourishthriveacademy.com/Shopify. All right, let's dive into this podcast. Okay, so we've been getting tons of questions about this topic. Like, I need more traffic to my website. How do I get more traffic to my website? Traffic. Well, traffic is only one part of the puzzle, one piece of the puzzle, I should say. So we're going to talk probably a little bit about that in the conversation, because getting traffic to your website can come in multiple ways, right? We think about different ways that we're trying to get people on our website, maybe social media, maybe PR, partnerships, like all these different things. But we forget our number one most amazing tool that we have, which is actually our email list. So the number one way to get more traffic to your jewelry website is to build your email list and actually email your customers and prospects. And I say that because, people are always like, I need to drive traffic. But the truth of the matter is that when you're just driving random traffic from people who don't know you or spending money on ads, trying to get people to your website who've never heard about your brand, your chances of getting those people to buy are really low. So instead, I'd really like to encourage you to build your email list. So I'm going to do another training coming up really soon about email list building. So stay tuned on that, or another podcast, I should say. I feel like all the podcasts are kind of like mini trainings. So that's why sometimes I use the words interchangeably, and hopefully you guys get a lot of value out of this podcast. So that's what I'm here for always. So there's a couple of different ways that you can email your list to get more traffic to your website. So the first way that I think people typically think about are broadcast emails, which are, typically considered like newsletters or things that you're sending out to your entire list on a continual basis or on a consistent basis. So what's really important, I think, with emailing your list as you start to build it is to create some sense of consistency. So choose maybe once a week, once a month, or something like that. Or you can do it 3 times a week, or you can commit to at least one day every week or month and then add in extra emails sporadically. So you can send out newsletters, as I mentioned. You can have special sales offers, promotions around different holidays that are coming up, like Mother's Day is coming up really soon. So this would be a great time to create like a broadcast email plan for Mother's Day. And there's other holidays that are coming up soon, like Father's Day, graduations, Easter, other things that are coming up that you might want to be thinking about creating a promotion plan around. And you can send emails to your entire list and, start to really grow that and get traffic to your website that way. As you continue to build your list, though, you might want to add in some segmentation. And what I mean by that is you segment off parts of your list based on special interests. So you can do this in a lot of different ways. So when we talk a little bit more about email list building, I'm going to go into this probably a little bit more in depth, but you want to think about things like how they opted in. So advanced marketers probably have multiple opt-ins on their website, not just one. And there might be different reasons for people to opt in. Maybe it's to sign up for your newsletter, not my favorite idea. Maybe sign up for a discount, also not my favorite idea. But, maybe they're opting into a style guide, or you're giving away some free resource or something else that keeps them engaged, that you can segment the list. Or you can segment the list based on buyers or when they have birthdays, so that you can, send out, like, if people have birthdays in May, you can send out an email to May birthdays, giving them a gift certificate for that month. There's lots of different things that you can do. When you start getting more advanced in your marketing strategy, there are like hundreds of thousands of ways you could segment your list. But start thinking about email list segmentation, because that's a good way to potentially send out more emails without losing the number of subscribers you have. Because the more broadcast emails you send out, the more people you'll lose and the lower your open rates will be. So email segmentation over time is really important to learn. We're always trying to refine that as well over at Flourish and Thrive Academy. And I'm doing the same, over at my jewelry business. For instance, here's a good example of how I segmented a list. I ran a promotion or a fundraiser actually to build a school in Africa back in November. And I segmented all the people who donated on that list into a special interest list so that I could email them separately about the progress of the school in Africa. So that's a good example of how you can segment a list. So emailing can come in a lot of different ways. It can come in your broadcast. It could come in creating segmented sections that you can send smaller portions of broadcasts to. And then you can also, so another I mentioned the segmentation. I just want to kind of go back to this. But if you do wholesale, this is a great opportunity for you to segment your list into retail buyers and wholesale buyers. So people who are buying directly from you, and then maybe people who are your wholesale clients, and you can also email them too. So I just thought of that. So I thought I would throw that in as well. So back to what I was saying is that you can send out broadcast emails to either your whole list or a segment of your list, or you can set up email automation funnels, which are really, really important to nurturing your customers and prospects in a lot of different ways. So the first way is that, I talked a little bit about an opt-in offer earlier. So I'm not going to go too in depth about opt-ins, but I will link some other resources in the show notes for that. In fact, I have a really great blog post all about email opt-ins. So I will definitely link that blog post in the show notes. So make sure that you check that out over at flourishthriveacademy.com/episode 84. And we'll have links in the show notes at the bottom of the post so that you can check out all the things that I'm going to mention here. So when people opt in to your email list, you might have different ways that they're opting in. And there's different placements that you might want to put those opt-ins all around your website. So for each of those different opt-in lists, if you have multiple types of opt-ins, you can create a nurture sequence so that you can nurture your prospects to the sale. So on episode 68, there's a great podcast with Steve Chu, and it's all about boosting your e-commerce sales. And Steve talks a lot about strategies for segmenting and nurturing prospects, especially for e-commerce. And he talks about how he does it, how he sort of tiers, like how long they've been on the list with the kind of offer that he gives them to keep moving them, and how he eventually segments them off and splinters them off into different places. So super great episode. I'm going to link that in the show notes, or you can just head on over to flourishthriveacademy.com/episode 68. It's a really good one. And then at the back end of every single opt-in guide, you can create a nurture sequence that guides them to the sale based on what it is. So for instance, you could have a quiz on the front end of your funnel that asks people like, what is your jewelry style? And then it spits out all these different jewelry styles. And then you create a beautiful lookbook PDF that you email to them. And in that lookbook, it talks about their jewelry style. And then you can point them to where to buy on your website. And then you can create a whole nurture sequence after that, prompting them to the sale or talking a little bit about their boho style or their traditional style or whatever it might be. So there's so many possibilities. One of my first opt-ins was a jewelry care cleaning guide. And this is a great opportunity because you could have that guide and then create a nurture sequence on the back end talking about jewelry cleaning tips, or show videos and then start pointing people to your web store for sales. So there's lots of different ways that you can sort of do this sort of in a roundabout way that gets people back to your website. See, traffic to your website. You're emailing them, you're driving them back to your website. And remember, in each of these emails that you sent out, the main purpose in almost, I would say 95% of the cases, is to get people on your website. So I see a lot of people sending out newsletters for events and stuff like that. And they're just sending all the event details in the newsletter, which is fine. But a better way might be, to create some sort of tease email postcard with event information, but then also linking that back to a page on your website with more details about the event. So you're still getting people on your website with a strong call to action. So I think another way that email marketing is really, really powerful is to recapture repeat buyers. So you can do this in two ways. Let's talk a little bit about post-sale email automation. So the first thing that you want to think about is when someone buys, like, how are you going to nurture them on the back end? So you could do a lot of different things. You can tell them that their order is shipping. You can send an email out like 10 days after the order ships to make sure that they received it okay and that they're happy with their order. You can ask them to then send a follow-up email asking them to write a review about the product or give a testimonial asking them for feedback on the work. You can ask them to post a picture of themselves wearing your jewelry on social media. So one of my favorite things would be to send an email saying show us your jewelry style, use your hashtag or something so that people can find you and make sure that they're tagging you on Instagram or identifying that you are, the designer on Pinterest or whatever it might be. I mentioned sending them an email asking for a review or a testimonial. And I just remembered we had a really great episode number 47, all about getting great testimonials from your clients. So I'm also going to link that in the show notes. So make sure that you check it out and listen to that episode if you haven't done so already. Another thing you can add in your post-sale nurture sequence is a refer a friend sort of offer. And this can create loyalty, create a sense of referrals for you. So you can use a plugin like on a platform like Shopify, where you can create a refer a friend, almost like affiliate program where you can give someone like $5 towards their next purchase for every friend that they refer. So you see this a lot in apps where they have like get $10 off your next massage, or get 15% off your next meal if you refer for every friend that you refer. So you guys can do sort of the same thing. And I remember when Dog-Eared, most of you know that Robin used to work for Dog-Eared, Robin Kramer, my co-founder here at Flourish and Thrive. And she was a sales director over there. And I remember when Dog-Eared first launched their website, they had this really amazing referral program. For every referral that ended up buying, you got $5 in credit. And for Dog-Eared, they don't even have that expensive of a brand. So you could refer 5 friends and get a piece of jewelry for free, basically. So it's pretty cool. And then after that, after you sort of do this nurture sequence or whatever, you can start to create additional sequences where you offer them like special bundles or packages just for them. You can give them a discount off their next order. You can put them in your VIP program. There's a lot of different ways. So think outside the box on how you can get your previous customers coming back to your website, because it's a really great idea. So that's post-sale email automation that you could kind of do right away. And then you can start to recapture the repeat buyers, as I mentioned, creating a special offer or a follow-up sequence. My favorite thing is to really build a loyalty program as well. So we talked about a refer a friend situation, but with loyalty programs, it's like the more they buy, the more they're rewarded. So think of different ways that you can reward your customer, and you can encourage them to continue to buy through your email nurture sequence. So your loyalty program could be anything from spend a certain dollar amount and then get this, or get access to certain pieces that they get first dibs at. There's a lot of different ways that you can do this. So think outside the box once again. And then in your nurture sequence to recapture people, you can create discounts or later offers, and then start to segment people for how often they open your emails or how often they're buying or clicking through. And then you can also, in that recapture of repeat buyers sequences, give them access to special content or material. So these could be blog posts. This could be like special interest stories. You can start featuring them on your blog so that they're excited to share it. So think about different ways that you can get people actually sharing what you're doing and engaged in the content on your site. So other things that you can email for. So we talked a little bit about email broadcast, and we talked a little bit about email automation, but I want to talk a little bit more about how this relates to the content on your site. So content marketing is huge for growing a business, right? For growing a jewelry business in particular, for a lot of reasons. So we want to market the content that we write on our site, like on our blog or other places on our site, like maybe in our about page or in our work with me page or whatever you have on your site, depending on the type of business model you have. We want to actually be marketing that content. And you can also market that content through your email list. And it's really important. I'm going to go into a little sidebar here, is to create continual content for a lot of reasons. Number one, it can pick up on SEO. And I mentioned the Steve Chu podcast, episode number 68, earlier in this show. He talks a little bit about his reasoning for blogging, actually, which is a little bit different than I actually suggest, but it's also something well worth listening to, is that you're really blogging for peers so that they pick up the work and repost your blog posts and things like Reddit so that you can get picked up in search engines more frequently. So it can create SEO. You can use keywords to think about what people are searching for in relation to your brand. So I know for me, I get a lot of traffic from people searching for rose-cut diamond engagement rings because I design a lot of rose-cut diamond rings. So think about it that way. Like, how can you use your email list on your site? And the more traffic you're driving to specific posts, the more relevance that Google will put it into the search engine ranking. So think about it. If you do design rose-cut diamond engagement rings like I do, or let's say you do something really specific, like you design Southwestern jewelry, and your blog post or your content is starting to pick up traffic or traction on that, and you end up driving email traffic to your email list, that just gets more eyeballs on there and gets people actually to be reading your content, and then also gets, Google sort of ranking your analytics up so that it deems your content as more important. So just one step, this is like still a little bit on the sidebar, but I think it's really important for the conversion piece. So we talked about the number one way to get traffic on your website, which is actually emailing people. In those emails, one of the most important things that you need to do is to make sure that there is a strong call to action and not too many calls to action. In particular, you want to have one thing that you want them to do. Best case scenario. Sometimes we have to email about a few things. We might do a PS at the bottom, like about an event, but we want them to buy online. So think about that. Like the more options you give, the less opportunity they are going to do anything with it. So think about that when you're doing this. So same thing goes with your blog post and any content pages on your site. So anywhere where you have information that talks about what you do, you want to tell people what to do next. So if you just have it there and you're not telling them where to buy what's in that blog post, or you just have them there and you're not showing them like what to do next, or where they can actually buy the piece, or where they can fill out your custom jewelry form, etc., then it's just a wasted opportunity. I feel like this podcast episode is turning into a podcast roundup, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but I've already done so many podcasts about different variations on this topic. So this is really great because I did a podcast, episode number 26, about how I booked over $30,000 in profits converting leads from my website. So it talks a lot about creating these strong calls to action and some of the things that you need to do in order to get people just from being on your site, getting into the next phase of buying. So check out that episode. It's flourishthriveacademy.com/episode 26. And of course, I will also have that in the show notes. So don't worry about that. Anyway, so I hope that's helpful. I know that a lot of you are always thinking about, oh, how am I going to get more traffic to your website? But I don't want you to oversee the most important way, because people who have actually opted into your email list are the most engaged buyers because they are already warm leads. They're not cold. They had to actually physically opt into your email list to get there. Or, people build lists in different ways. Maybe some of these people met you at a trunk show or a trade show or something like that, but they already know who you are. So it makes it a lot easier to sell to them. And don't forget about your previous buyers. Those are the ones that you want to nurture the most, because if they've already purchased from you, it is a lot easier to resell them on something than to try to, start fresh with a cold lead. Anyway, I wanted to thank you so much for listening today. If you are thinking about starting a new website or transferring over to a new platform, make sure that you check out Shopify if you don't already have a website up. Or if you're thinking that you want a website that's going to convert sales a little bit better for you and offer you the growth functionality of a platform like Shopify, I really think it's the best one out there right now. Then head on over to flourishthriveacademy.com/Shopify and check out the special offer that we have with them. 10% off your order and also an extended free trial, which is super duper cool. So you can try it out first, see if you like it. And if you do, 10% off your Shopify fees, which is pretty cool. All right, you guys, thank you so much for listening today. I have some great links that are all over in the show notes, so make sure that you check those out. If you're new to the Thrive by Design podcast, I would love to ask you a huge favor. Head on over to iTunes and give us a rating and review. It really helps us understand a little bit more about what it is that we can do to support you more, and also gives us a little bit of a heads up on what you think about the show. So if you like what you're hearing, we'd love to hear from you and let us know how we can support you a little bit more. All right, you guys, take care until next time. This is Tracy Matthews signing off.